Coming up on market shares, Governor Kathy Hochul is declaring victory with a $237 billion spending plan. What's included in the new state budget?
And the Justice Department is reportedly getting ready to file an antitrust lawsuit against concert promoter Live Nation. How this could change the entertainment industry.
And the NASDAQ down almost 2% today as the averages struggle to stay afloat. Hold on to your wallets because market share starts right now. Sticky inflation in the first quarter is calling into question whether the Federal Reserve will be able to lower interest rates this year. Welcome into Market Shares. I'm Bradley Hoppenstein.
And I'm Peyton Spellacy. Speaking on a panel discussion earlier this week, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said that while inflation pressure has eased in the last year, it hasn't come down in recent months.
The Fed doesn't seem confident that inflation is headed toward its 2% target level, and strong job growth is contributing to some big gains. In particular, the CPI was little changed in March.
Higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive for anything from mortgages to credit cards. It encourages people to save rather than spend, which in theory helps bring down prices. But it takes a while for effects to be felt, and the risk is that the central bank raises to the point where the economy slows down and tilts into a recession.
All right, we touched on it last week, but now is not the time to buy a home. Mortgage rates are now at the highest level of the year and could still climb. They now sit right around 8%, the highest level since mid-November, Peyton.
Rates were at their highest in a few were their highest in a few decades last October, causing home sales to come to a halt. Builders jumped to buy down rates for their customers and managed to do better than existing home sellers. Rates then fell through mid-January and held at the mid 6% range, causing a surge in home sales, but they have began to rise again.
All right, United jumped 17% on Tuesday after beating earnings and giving a strong forecast for the rest of the year. First quarter revenue was $12.5 billion, which was just more than expected. With that, the airline stock is up over 20% on the week. United also now has a plan to address those ongoing issues at Boeing. It will now only get 61 new narrow-body planes this year after expecting over 100. So what they're doing, the company is going to lease some A321 jets from Airbus over the next few years. For the second quarter, it's looking at earnings between $3.75 and $4.25 a share, which is ahead of estimates. For the year now, United is forecasting between $9 and $11 a share.
And unfortunately, American Airlines hasn't been lucky. The airline's pilot union says there has been a, quote, significant spike in safety problems. They listed incidents like tools being left in wheel wells and more collisions between towed aircrafts. The union has also been encouraging members to speak up and report any issues. Despite this, the carrier is expected to beat earnings for the quarter thanks to the boost from United. Revenues are expected to be up around 3% from last year, but it's also expected to post a quarterly loss of around 30 cents per share.
Let's go from the skies to the streets now. Yet another addition is being made to the roster of companies cutting employees. This time it's Tesla. They're laying off about 14,000 workers. CEO Elon Musk says they're looking at every aspect of the company as they prepare for the next phase of growth. As we noted a few weeks ago here on Market Shares, Tesla's shares have been tanking in recent months. The company just had what analysts are calling its worst quarter ever. It's down 31% year to date, and this comes as sales growth has slowed down for Tesla as they face not only more competition, but slowing demand for EVs in the U.S.
And if you hate long grocery lines, well, you might be in luck. Amazon will be selling its smart grocery carts to more retailers. They're called dash carts, and they use computer vision and sensors to track what you put in your cart. Some Price Shoppers and McKeever's markets in Kansas and Missouri have already been testing this new way of shopping. Dash cart is similar to Amazon's Just Walk Out technology. However, that tech has been taken out of stores and seen more in airports, stadiums, and hospitals.
To banking now, Bank of America topped estimates for both profit and revenue on better than expected interest income and investment banking. The bank says profit fell 18% to $6.6 billion and revenue slipped about 1.5%, but both still above estimates. Net interest income is where the surprise was, though. That's the difference between what the company earns from loans and investments and what it pays customers for their deposits. That number was just 14 billion, just above most analyst expectations. Bank of America shares fell a bit earlier in the week after the report, but things leveled out as the week went on. The stock is getting close to its 52-week high now, just under $40 a share. Peyton.
Bradley, the popular seafood restaurant Red Lobster is considering filing for bankruptcy. This comes after the restaurant reported a $12.5 million loss in their endless shrimp deal.
I can't believe it. They say they've been finding it difficult to make money with their current leases and labor costs, and now they're trying to figure out how to cut some costs, Peyton. There have also been some recent internal changes at the company, as a new CEO was named recently. Luckily, he's known for his expertise in restructuring restaurants on the verge of bankruptcy, so maybe they can stick around a little longer. That's a shame, but to be completely honest with you, Peyton, I've never actually been to Red Lobster.
I haven't either. Maybe we should go before they file for bankruptcy just to test it out. Maybe they might not, but we'll see.
Might be running out of time.
Yes. That company that owns Red Lobster, though, owns a bunch of chains like Olive Garden. We were looking into this earlier. Seasons 52, Ruth Chris. So their stock isn't being affected at all by this.
Well, it's just interesting that Red Lobster, of a group that owns so many of those kind of chain restaurants, Red Lobster is the only one having issues. I find that a little interesting. But it was the shrimp. The shrimp caused a lot of problems.
Yes. Big story in sports this week. The NBA has banned Toronto Raptors player Jontay Porter for gambling violations. He had disclosed confidential information to bettors. He also limited his participation in at least one game and bet on NBA games while playing in the G League. The investigation was launched back in March after two sports books noticed irregular betting statistics in two Raptors games. Porter also revealed information about his health to a sports bettor. The investigation found that Porter himself placed at least 13 bets on games ranging from $15,000 to $22,000. The total payout from those bets was over $76,000. The Raptors said that they are, quote, fully supportive of the league's decision to ban Jontay Porter and will cooperate with all ongoing inquiries.
All right, let's bring things back to New York now. Governor Kathy Hochul has a new state budget for 2025, and she's making it clear that she wants to tackle some major issues across the state, like the housing crisis and retail theft. Here to break down everything in the budget is Market Shares analyst Peter Berry. Hey, Peter.
How's it going, Bradley? Well, we have some three key lawmakers that made this bill, or not this bill, this budget possible. So we obviously have Governor Kathy Hochul, we have Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, and we have Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. But let's jump into the logistics of this budget. So it was approved by leaders on April 15th, 2 weeks after the deadline was supposed to be on April 1st. And the budget's going to have $237 billion. That's $4 billion more than the actual proposal just a few months ago. And that's going to be an $8 billion increase from last year's budget. But they were very adamant about not raising taxes here. So Wall Street had bonuses that averaged $176,000, so they didn't really have to raise taxes. Wall Street has nearly 30% of the state's taxes, so that's roughly around $30 billion. But talking about taxes, let's see how the money is raised and spent here. 82% of the budget's money is through taxes, and then it leaves another 18% to other. But let's see where this money's going. You can see around more than 50% is going to Medicaid and to education. And there's also 20% going to other, and most of it is going to universities as well and elected officials and to pay off the debt. But let's see what it's doing for businesses. We're a business show. It's going to combat organized retail theft. It's paying $40.2 million to retail theft enforcement, and it's giving $3,000 of tax credit to security investments. And it's also going to have harsher penalties for retail thefts convictions. But let's see how it's also addressing the housing crisis. $500 million are going to build 15,000 in state-owned sites. And it's going to happen to have tax relief for developers converting office to housing space. And renters are going to get additional protections, so it will be harder for them to evict. They outbid other renters here. But let's bring it closer to home as well. So there's been a lot of reports that it is harder to get an apartment in Syracuse than in New York City, nearly a 15% increase in a year span. But it's going to be hard as well with that 8% mortgage. So Peyton and Bradley, I'm going to send it back to you.
Much, Peter. After the break, we'll take a look at our biggest market movers of the week. Stay tuned.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Welcome back to Market Shares. Markets just closing for the week. Let's take a look at how our major 3 indexes ended the week. It's kind of rocky on Wall Street these days, Peyton. You can see all 3 of our major indexes down on the week. There's a lot of concern about inflation, like we mentioned earlier. When is the Fed going to lower rates? We don't know. There's a lot of anxiety about interest rates, and also the rising geopolitical tension just around the world, specifically the Middle East and then Russia, Ukraine. A lot of uncertainty about where not just the U.S., but a lot of other countries are headed.
Yeah, the indexes have been down about 5-6 days, but like we said a few weeks ago, you know, it was doing so well that you can't just always be doing well. Like you said, we were expecting lower interest rates, but that didn't happen, and that's why indexes are down. But we're coming back into earnings season, so we should expect these indexes to rebound soon.
One note is the S&P is down 5% since its record close in March, so losing some of those big gains. Let's get to our movers on the week. We're going to start things off with Alaska Airlines here. You can see up 7% on the week, sitting around $45 a share. It's been on a slow climb as the week's gone on. They reported a Q1 loss, but they still topped revenue estimates. And the only thing they're really trying to recover from here is the issues with Boeing. We seem to talk about it every week on the show, the infamous door plug incident and all the quality control issues. Alaska, if I'm correct, Peyton, has an all Boeing fleet. So things are going to be interesting as Boeing is projecting less deliveries as the year goes on. But shares since the start of the year for Alaska up about 9%. The only other question for them besides Boeing is what's going to happen with that Hawaiian Airlines merger, which it looks like the DOJ and FTC are going to shut down. But we're going to have to wait and see. Yeah, so they broke above its resistance level, meaning the stock is going to go through the roof. It's looking like they're at the retracement level. It can hit up to $47 a share. You know, they did have that issue where they had a ground stop yesterday, but it was only for about an hour, and it actually kind of helped their stocks. It went up right after that on Wednesday. Yeah, that was a computer issue, I believe. Yes. So now let's take a look into one of our favorite stocks to talk about, Netflix. Netflix is down, so their share price was up 90% over 12 months, up 25% year to date. These are crazy numbers. They grew 16% in subscriber growth by cracking down on password sharing, meaning people were having to buy their own subscriptions. So increased subscriber, increased revenue means increase in share price. But their share price is maxed out. They received an analyst downgrade saying forecast shows no meaningful growth in the future. So that's why Netflix has been down this week, down 11%, as you can see there on your screen. It's just not sustainable, one-time deal. You can't get any more subscribers after you've already started cracking down on them. So the price is at a tipping point.
And it's tough for them to grow anymore. They can increase subscribers or charge more, but they're already charging a lot, and there's really just no more ways for them to get subscribers.
I feel like it's every few months we talk about a price increase on one of these streaming services. Usually it's Netflix, specifically with them cracking down on their passwords, increasing prices at the same time. One note on Netflix, though, or actually two quick things. Their second quarter forecast is a little lower than analysts expected, and Wall Street's not happy with them because they're going to stop reporting their quarterly subscriber numbers and average revenue per member. So they're trying to keep some of their numbers under wraps. We know Netflix isn't too friendly when it comes to view numbers. Same thing with subscribers now too. That's going to start next year where they don't share that. Let's get to DJT, the Trump media stock. It went on a bit of a run as the week went on, but it's still way down from its high. Now remember, former President Trump owns about 60% of the shares of the company, but the value in his stake has dropped by billions since that IPO last month.
Yeah, I was going to say it was at a high of $79 a share about 3 weeks ago. That's March 26th to be exact. It hit a low of $22 just 4 days ago. That's dropping 66% of the value of the company. So I think people think that they want to buy this stock in support of Trump, but really that's just not a smart move because financial analysts have been looking at less. They're saying that it's $2, less than $2 in a share now, based off of revenues.
Yeah. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk, or Luke Radel mentioned it last week, that this is kind of teetering on meme stock territory. And
Yes.
actually, Trump media alerted the NASDAQ this morning about potential market manipulation with the stock. They're basically saying people are buying and selling too quick. So we're going to see how the NASDAQ and Wall Street and the stock's price responds to that.
Yep, it's the exact same phenomenon as AMC and GameStop.
All right, after the break, an $850 million offer was recently rejected by pro golfer Rory McIlroy. What's happening in the ongoing feud between the LIV Golf Tour and PGA?
A bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Women are bad with money.
That's what the world's been saying for centuries.
But now, we've got something to say.
Save it. Save the old-fashioned advice, the empty excuses. It's all worthless, unlike us.
To our fellow females, it is time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Contributing to our futures, investing in our independence.
Until we're no longer 80%
more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
So again, we say to that, save it.
The falsehoods, the feelings of fault, then the funds.
Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.
Welcome back into Market Shares. Live Nation stock was down bad on Tuesday after news broke about the DOJ's antitrust lawsuit next month. Here to unpack the impact is Market Shares analyst Ben Bassick. Ben?
Hi, Bradley. Peyton, are you ready for it? Because last night, Taylor Swift dropped her new album, The Tortured Poets Department. But just this past Tuesday, Live Nation, the country's largest concert promoter and ticketing website, saw red as their stock dropped more than 7% in pre-market trading after the Department of Justice announced their plans to file an antitrust lawsuit next month. The lawsuit alleges that the Ticketmaster parent company leveraged its dominance, using its market lead position to trouble live event competition. The Live Nation Ticketmaster merger was approved by the federal government in 2010 and remains at the center of antitrust concerns, advertising itself as the, quote, largest live entertainment company in the world. Violations like ticket fees bigger than the whole sky and monopolistic practices led the DOJ to extend the company's consent decree into 2025. That's an agreement which bars Live Nation from strong-arming venues into using Ticketmaster for its tours. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour ticketing, which left millions unable to purchase seats, drew attention from feds in 2022, leading to a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing in January 2023 over the company's market dominance and harmful practices on rivals, musicians, and Swifties, who sued Live Nation for unlawful conduct, alleging the violation of antitrust laws.
And thank you for an absolutely stunning achievement. You have brought together Republicans and Democrats. Live Nation, Ticketmaster, is the 800-pound gorilla here. You have clear dominance, monopolistic control. And may I suggest respectfully that Ticketmaster ought to look in the mirror and say, I'm the problem. It's me.
Ben, this is something a lot of people have been talking about. Let's talk Live Nation. Have they been in good standing, and how much of their stock drop this week stems from the lawsuit?
Yeah, so a lot of their decline comes directly from the DOJ's actions. If we take a look at their fiscal year 2023, they have revenue surges of 36% year over year. That's to $22.7 billion. Their earnings per share more than doubled to $1.37, and concert attendance climbed 20%, with 145 million fans attending over 50,000 events. After Tuesday, their shares are down almost 13% in the past month. So most of this has come from the DOJ's actions.
Leadership responded to this suit?
Yeah, so we haven't seen any specific response to this specific suit from Live Nation, but we can assume their arguments are going to be similar to what we heard in that January 2023 Senate hearing when Joe Burke told the president and CEO of Live Nation defended the company's actions, saying that they don't set prices, they don't pick the amount of tickets available, they simply pick the venues. Now, he claimed data from Pollstar that showed Live Nation controls just 200 of around 4,000 U.S. venues. That grants them only about 5% market share, but those numbers are widely debated, meaning they could walk away from this untouchable. Even if the DOJ follows through, it could not cure issues in a secondary ticket market. All I know is that I was holding onto my wallet when I bought those Eras Tour tickets last summer, so hopefully concert goers face some cheaper prices going forward.
Ben, thank you. I hope you had a great time at the Eras Tour. A soft spot for me now. The Masters took over the hearts of golf fans last week as Scottie Scheffler took home his second green jacket in just 3 years. But after his win, the headlines quickly changed as major news broke that star Rory McIlroy was close to a deal with the LIV Golf League. The PGA Tour and LIV agreed to merge about a year ago, but talks since then have kind of quieted down. Market Shares analyst Alex Burstein is here with the latest on the strange relationship between the two. Hey, Alex.
Hey, Bradley. At the end of the day, nothing ended up happening. Anyone who has watched golf or even just seen an episode of Netflix's Full Swing knows Rory McIlroy and the LIV Golf League are not the best of friends.
I still hate LIV. Like, I hate LIV. Like, I hope it goes away, and I would fully expect that it does.
While tempers have softened since that June 2023 clip, McIlroy made clear this week that he is with the PGA Tour for life. London-based newspaper City AM reported earlier this week that the Northern Irish golfer was closing in on an $850 million deal that would also give him a 2% equity stake in the Saudi-based LIV Golf League. McIlroy told the Golf Channel Tuesday there's zero truth to this, and he has never received an offer from LIV. This comes after LIV CEO Greg Norman followed McIlroy at the Augusta National last week for the Masters, where McIlroy finished a disappointing 22nd. The LIV versus PGA saga has been one with as many twists and turns as an amusement park. The timeline starts back around 2021 when in October Norman was announced as CEO of LIV Golf Investments. The LIV Golf Invitational Series launched the next summer, and top golfers like Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, and Brooks Koepka made the move to LIV. Meanwhile, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan suspended players who went to LIV. Two notables who stuck with the PGA, Tiger Woods and McIlroy. But LIV players were still able to compete in the majors like the Masters. Meanwhile, McIlroy became the de facto player voice of the PGA. Then, this past June, it all changed. The PGA Tour reached a framework agreement with the Saudi Public Investment Fund. McIlroy has taken a step back after the announcement. He now speaks more lightly of the LIV League, but has pledged his loyalty to the PGA.
But yeah, I mean, I'm obviously here today, and I'm playing this PGA Tour event next week, and I will play the PGA Tour for the rest of my career.
Alex, there's a lot of ways you could attack this, but let's just go surface level here. McIlroy, like you said, he's been the most vocal, most outspoken critic of LIV. You got to wonder how valid this actually is that he got the offer. But just in terms of the merger, are we getting any closer to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been almost a year. That was last June when the initial reports of agreement came, and it seems like they're not any closer. There was some New York Times reporting earlier this week that said the two sides have been working but have not really been able to reach an agreement. There's two main points that there's been struggles with. The first one is there's really no valuation of what LIV is worth. These two leagues aren't trying for a merger, but in government records it would be more of a merger type thing, and they have no idea what LIV is worth. The other problem, when you look at the language of this deal, is how that LIV and PGA are going to cooperate together and just how the players are going to be able to play. We see in the Masters and in other majors that they play together, but looking at some other things, they're just very different. There's worries that a merger would possibly become a monopoly in the golf world, and the U.S. government doesn't want that.
So how have LIV golfers been playing recently?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the top names in the sport made the crossover to LIV over the last year. The big one this past December was Jon Rahm, who won the Masters last year. Had more of a disappointing performance this year, but he's the most recent big name. But the league is expecting more big names to come over. If you look at the results from this past weekend, there was 8 golfers who made the cut for the weekend, and then they were able to eventually finish top 6 with Bryson DeChambeau.
It's also interesting when you factor in golf ratings have been dropping substantially. So you got to wonder, a lot of analysts think that this is a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some of the worst ratings that we've seen recently. It was the worst Masters performance minus COVID in 30 years. There's been a lot of problems with that, but there is a little less hostility between the two sides, so it'll be interesting to see if that changes anything.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today on Market Shares. Coming up later, the marketer credited with revving the Stanley Cup brand is returning to Crocs, how he could change the brand after the break.
Welcome to an excellent episode of Live from Studio B.
Welcome back. The executive credited with turning Stanley's giant metal water bottle into a status symbol is leaving the company to return to his old employer, Crocs. Beginning at the end of the month, Terrence Riley will leave Crocs brand and leave Stanley and return to Crocs as president. During his first tenure at Crocs, Riley said his marketing team turned the shoes from a quote, meme to a dream by collaborating with KFC as well as the rapper Post Malone.
Then he repeated that success as president of the Stanley brand, where he converted a company known for men's camping gear into a viral sensation. Hype around the water bottle contributed to Stanley's revenue soaring roughly $750 million last year from $73 million back in 2019.
Peyton, I am here for the Crocs hype. I'm always here for it, but that's all the time we have on Market Shares this afternoon. For more of the latest, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CitrusTV News. I'm Bradley Hoppenstein.
And I'm Peyton Spellacy. Have a great night, Syracuse, and tune in next week on Wednesday.